And welcome to a kind of barrel of monkeys-ish edition of Ben's Junk. I know that's a horrible way to describe Ben's junk, but here's the whole logic, I guess you could say. Barrel of monkeys, everything's kind of connected. So in this case, it's, I don't know what you want to call it, kinetic logic, something like that. Might not even be the right use of the word. But anyway, I've got three things I want to cover here, and they're all connected in kind of a loose way. So just to establish what those three things are. First up, I want to do a little update regarding the Keyfax setup, American Teletext, involving a remote control. With remote controls on the brain, I'm going to bust out one of my Laserdisc players to show off an update on the remote front with that. And with Laserdiscs on the brain, I haven't done the whole Discovision dead side thing in a couple of years now, so I've built up a whole box of them with sides that have not been uncovered yet. So I've pulled a few from that box, but I'll discuss that more once we get there. So anyway, let's start off with item number one. So back in last spring, 2021, I did an episode called Keyfax Rides Again. And in a perfect world, that would have been all about me single-handedly resurrecting Keyfax, American Teletext. Short-lived, did really, really poorly. And so, if you've seen that episode, it didn't go too well. But since then, I've just kind of fallen into teletext circles. Even though I've never sought any of them out, they do tend to hit me up on Twitter, email me, and so forth. And I have no problem with that, don't get me wrong. But anyway, I had this late last summer, I had a bit of an email back and forth going with a guy in England, and he was telling me that he had the British equivalent to this Keyfax box, and he had found a replacement remote that worked with that unit. So the idea being that these are British imports. I mean, they were made to North American spec, but these were brought in from Sheffield, England. So we figured, well, it's worth a shot. So I'll import one of those remotes and we'll just see what happens. So what I did was, at $40, because most of it was shipping, I imported one of these Mandis shop remotes. And, of course, there's the remote proper. And my camera may or may not focus. So I am sad to report that this fares even worse than me just randomly pulling an American remote and just pointing it at the box and seeing what happens. So the IR codes truly do not match with this. So anyway, I have thoroughly tried this out. This is one of those kind of universal deals. So you got 4 options plus a shift button to try alternate versions, if my camera will focus again, of the buttons. So there is a text button on here, teletext, but it doesn't do a thing. So the only thing I've been able to get this thing to do is if I hit DVD and if I hit the 0 just right and just at the right distance, sometimes I can make it jump through the channels, but that's about it. And I was going to say it wasn't playing nice, but there we go. But that's about it. So I wanted to give another rather depressing update with this. So I have obviously reset the whole thing. I brought out the same tape I used in that episode. And let me just turn that back on. We should be going into a commercial break here. Yep. So I was triggering the teletext function by just hitting fast forward or rewind on the VCR. And I can still do that most of the time, just like that. But I realized when I got this remote that I wasn't being cynical enough. So when I made Keyfax rides again, I was only using my TBS tapes. I didn't think to just randomly throw in maybe some random major label tape. Well, sure enough, I can throw in that copy of Indiana Jones and hit the fast forward button and just get the same old P100 stuff. The only difference is the TBS gives me some more unique characters, like the occasional other number aside from a 1 and a 0, and maybe like a British pound sign for the currency. So, yeah, that's kind of a downer to report. And I'll stop short of saying it, but I fear that American Keyfax is just lost to time. So even though I've talked with some of the guys from England, and some of them know how to completely reconstruct the totally corrupt data out of a standard VHS tape, with this, I don't see it being stable enough. I think PAL is a little more conducive to it. And unfortunately, American Keyfax died out before things like SVHS. So there's no footage on that front. So unless by some utter miracle somebody's got an off-air recording from the cable feed of TBS on U-matic or Betacam, I'm going to say this one's kind of just a curiosity. Prove me wrong. Anyway, let's take a cut here and we'll move on to the other remote thing regarding Laserdiscs. Okay, moving from one remote thing to another. So I've lost track, but I think it was about 2 years ago that I did a Ben's Junk on the Anderic remote here. I forget the exact model number, RMC12010. But this is intended as a replacement remote for Pioneer service remotes, largely regarding the CLD series from the mid-90s. So, I mean, this worked fine in terms of, my main purpose was to get the player into test mode so I could check properly my dead sides, and because some of them use different coatings than a standard consumer Laserdisc, so it's kind of your only option. And of course, this 304 is kind of my sacrificial unit, because there are things that can go wrong with this, like shooting the laser right off of the disc. So you could probably see it sort of right at the bottom right corner, but that's my good Laserdisc player, and I'd like to keep it that way. So this has become kind of my play/torture unit. So anyway, this is cute, and the price was right. I think it was like $13 or something. But I like original. I like the real deal. So I guess it was around Halloween, but I found this very nice Pioneer GGF1381, and the other model being the GGF, I think 1067. Now, at the moment, there's nothing that I can do with this that I can't already do on the Anderic. But theoretically, at least, this opens up the door to more adjustments, if I'm so inclined. I don't think it's ever going to happen, just because I just don't... I feel like I need to take a course on it, and those courses don't exist anymore. Who knows, maybe there's some old Pioneer service tech that watches this. But anyway... I can kick it into service mode here, but I guess theoretically, if I ever get my hands on some of the reference discs, I can play a little more and see just how well the laser is aligned and so forth. But I've had running LDDB, Laserdisc Database, and Fleabase searches for those discs running for at least a year now, and I haven't seen any come up. If they have... it's sailed right past me. Of course, I have like 75 running Fleabase searches, so I only get email alerts for what I deem the important ones. So I guess if any have come up, they've just, again, sailed right past me. But anyway, I'm not going to do anything that I haven't already done, but we'll just pop this sucker into service mode just to show it. And this is actually slightly simpler than the Anderic. Now, this is a little backwards in my mind. You would think that you would want to hit test to go into test mode, but nope. You have to hit escape, then test. And then, bizarrely, to get the display to turn off, you can either wait it out or hit Rep B, right at the tip of my thumb. It'll eject, but that's fine, because I'm going to throw in a disc, partially just to finish showing this off, but also just to, I guess, rant slightly. So, of all the things that I post to Archive Annex, it never ceases to amaze me what takes off and what doesn't. So the two most popular things on that channel, of course the channel being where I post stuff that I've covered on Archive in its entirety without my commentary and commercial breaks and so on. The two most popular videos, far and away, on that channel are Yo-Yo Man with the Smothers Brothers. He just kept on yoing. Of all the things to become a meme, that's it. But in second place, albeit a fairly distant second, is the industrial film for the Chevrolet Citation from 1979. And you may want to download a YouTube dislike extension for that. But that one, last I checked, it had a pretty outsized number of dislikes going on. But the comments section is kind of its own form of entertainment. The most common comment seems to be, what a terrible car this is. And then maybe I'm just being oversensitive, but it seems like next to that, it's what kind of jerk would post this? Well, in my mind, I wasn't thinking, is it a good or a bad car? I just thought, oh, this is so cheesy. It's just glorious. It's a load of fun. I wasn't thinking, how well did the Citation run? I certainly never owned one, never known anyone that has. But anyway, let's just go ahead and let this happen for a few seconds. And just like the Anderic, I just have to keep pumping the play button until the picture straightens itself out. So we'll get our usual funky stripes and stuff. And I'm just pounding that play button. There we go. So obviously you can pull this up on Annex, watch it in its entirety, in all its laser rot glory, laser rot addled glory. But yeah, so I'll just go ahead and hit stop. And of course the brake is disabled in service mode, so we just have to wait for it to come to a natural stop. But let's go ahead and come out of test mode. Again, just hitting escape. Boom, that was it. All right, well, let's take a cut here, and since we're already on the subject of dead sides, let's just roll with that. And following that thread of logic right along, let's move on to today's final segment, some more Discovision dead sides. So I started on this whole thing, I think almost 4 years ago. And I first covered these just before I left Colorado in May or early June of 2018. And I've done one more round since then. I think that was summer of 2019. But I haven't done it again. And I really should, because even though I don't find these in the wild anymore, when they come up on Fleabay in lots and the price is right and they're all the original CAV titles, and yeah, I'll just pick them up, and I've managed to accrue a whole box of these things now. So I've cherry-picked 3 out of that box, but having said that, I have no idea what's on these. I have not uncovered them yet, but just ultra briefly, in case you're not familiar, Discovision, the first Laserdiscs, late 1978 is when they were introduced, and I think only in Atlanta. And so they hadn't really perfected things yet. So Laserdiscs are usually two-sided. And before they came up with the proper dead side that they started doing in the early 80s, they would just take whatever factory rejects, attach it to any title with an odd number of sides. So maybe it's only a one-sided title, or it's 2 discs, but it's only got 3 sides. Attach it, with glue, of course, and they would coat that non-play side with lacquer, and that would be it. Well, you can uncover the lacquer with rubbing alcohol and Easter eggs the hard way. So anyway, as I said, I cherry-picked 3 from the box. So we got the Great Waldo Pepper. I think that might be the name of a porno. Please don't let it be. It seems like my jokes have a way of coming true. But anyway, a very beaten copy of the Great Waldo Pepper. This thing has just been through the wars. But all of these are not only original CAV Discovision titles, but they are all in the pizza box style. So we got that. Then we have Hitchcock, Alfred Hitchcock, The Birds, and another, again, a pizza box. They all are. But this one's still got the felt insides. And I've thought about swapping these out for poly-lined paper sleeves, because I think these are a little abrasive. I don't know how well I like it. At the same time, they're original, so, you know, the collector in me doesn't want to get rid of them, so I'd have to maybe do both or something. But anyway, that's a 3-disc set right there. And it's just, I've wanted this on this format forever, because Saturday Night Fever on Discovision, it doesn't get any more poetic than that. So anyway, I think at the very least, Saturday Night Fever and Great Waldo Pepper were among, maybe not the first line of discs in late 78, but certainly no later than 79. And I think this also came out on VHS and Beta in 79. And I've actually never owned a copy of Saturday Night Fever. You'd think I would, being the Oddity archive guy, and for all the disco stuff we've covered. And I uncovered a side of this movie on another Discovision set, so we're certainly no stranger to it around here. But yeah, those are going to be our candidates. I am not going to shoot any footage of me uncovering these, because my methods have not changed since the last time I did this. I might just reuse a bit of my old montage just for the visual. But basically, I'm taking little puddles of lacquer, breaking it up, ultimately uncovering the disc, trying my darndest not to let it get into the sides of the disc, and, just seeing what I get. So, just for a lark, let me open this one up. This one's got the felt as well. So, worst case scenario, they won't work, or it'll be just some side of some major movie, and I will either note it or just run a few seconds of the movie so you know that it exists. Best case scenario, maybe we'll uncover some more industrial films here, and if they're not already on YouTube, I will post them to Archive Annex, and if YouTube has heartburn with it, it'll go to archive.org. So that's what you can expect here. Otherwise, that is it for me on the vocal front for today. I'll talk to you again soon.
Oh, Colonel Marmaduke Ruggles, late of the British Army, and an intimate friend of the Earl of Bernstein, brother, an honored house guest of Mr. and Mrs. Egbert Floud.
Well, he's coming to get me.
You're not going to let him, are you? What has he ever done for you?
Well, he did let me down.